and good evening, everybody. My name is Lorene Young. I'm a director here with CAMCO, and I'd like to welcome you all to this board roundtable presentation on asphalt and concrete. Just a reminder to stay muted for now. We are going to have more of an interactive discussion here with the asphalt and concrete. If you have some questions, please feel free to put them into the chat. And as we go along, then we can answer your questions and again, have a more of an interactive discussion. I'd like to introduce the presenter here, who is Jeff Bevevino with Macadam. And he's going to be presenting tonight's topic. And thanks again for joining. And I'm going to turn this over to Jeff.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. Exciting world of asphalt and concrete. I'm going to, I'll start sharing my screen here. Hopefully, let's see, everybody can see this. Is it working out okay, Lauren?
Yes, that's perfect.
Okay. I just wanted to, before I got into the three hot topics for tonight, I just wanted to give you like a little background about Macadam Company and myself. It was started in 1986, started by my cousin, actually, and I was attending Syracuse University studying civil engineering, and I came here in '94. This is supposed to be a summer job for me. And here I am today. I am still here. There was only 8 of us back then. And so all of us were out in the field at that time. So I was a foreman on the Sealcoating crew. I was a foreman on the Paving crew. And eventually I've been in the office for the last 15 or 20 years as an estimator. I'm now a vice president of the company. There's 110 people here. We do cover basically all of New Jersey, half of Pennsylvania, and most of Delaware. We're a full service pavement maintenance company. So everything that we do, milling, paving, we have 5 large milling machines, and like we do all of our own work. So we do pipe work, stormwater work, drain work, line striping, seal coating. I think that's pretty important as a board member, knowing who you are going to hire to do your work, to make sure that there's no subs on that job. I think that's a huge one. So you only see green trucks and our men or women on the job site. So we do about 50% of our work is HOA work, but we do right now distribution center work is extremely huge right now. Like we're doing a ton of distribution center work. And that work, unfortunately, Allentown, York, Harrisburg, middle of New Jersey, where all those large distribution centers are. So actually, homeowner association work tends to be a little closer for us, which is very nice, and our guys appreciate that. So that's a little bit about us here at Macadam. So I'm going to get right into a parking lot. What is it? What do your reserve studies say about your parking lots or roads or driveways? And feel free to ask any questions as we go on, please. I actually want some interaction if we can. So, most reserve studies from your engineers, I think they say 20 to 25 years, and some even go a little bit further than that. What we've been experiencing is about 18 to 22 years. I think that's a pretty decent rule of thumb. There's some HOAs that we've actually worked on about 16 years, and we've had to remove all of the asphalt and replace all of it, and they were not expecting that. That was obviously poor original construction, but that's a pretty good rule of thumb. But I think the important part of this is if you're unsure of where you are in the life cycle of that parking lot, I don't mind, checking out every spring just to see where we are, to see, how far along that deterioration process it really has gone. Because as we'll get into this presentation, it's really important to catch things and catch it before that parking lot falls off into full failure. And I'll talk about that more a little bit later on. But that's also with maintenance, you know, like you fill in linear cracks, seal coating it. I think every 3 to 5 years, I think most engineers would say that same thing. That's normal traffic patterns. And also trash trucks. We love trash trucks because they really bang up all your parking lots pretty much. But that's, you know, how much traffic is it? Is it a really busy road? Is it just, you know, residents parking on it? That's a huge factor as well. And like the one thing, so the type of sub base there is, or subgrade, if it's really wet underneath like that parking lot, we can tell if there's water perking up through, and that's a huge, you know, reason for like a lot of failure as well. And we have to like correct that before we fix the asphalt. So actually, I'm going to go into seal coating really quickly because that's the first hot topic of tonight. Why seal? I think everybody knows, especially with an HOA, aesthetics. I know that's a huge part, and like you get to touch every one of your residents. I know like the residents get on you guys all the time about, you know, why aren't we sealing? You know, why aren't we doing this? And I think that's a huge part of it, and it keeps your property value up as well with that curb appeal. But not only it really does. So we truly believe. I mean, after looking at so many parking lots that I've sealed numerous times, they really do hold up. Like the number one killer of asphalt is the sun, and that does break down that like those stones, and it actually breaks down the asphalt cement in the asphalt. So asphalt's 95% stone and 5% asphalt cement, which is the oil. And I will get that's our third hot topic because the price of oil right now is really it's not great for us right now. And that's I was talking about the sun, and that's, you know, like the, you know, like one of the leading causes. So here is just a little something about sealer and the mix design of it. So, you know, we use sealer, and then we, you know, it actually, for every 100 gallons of sealer, we use 500 pounds of sand. And it sounds like a lot, and it is. So when you run your hand across that, you know, newly sealed lot, it should feel like sandpaper. And when you touch that, and if it doesn't, that contractor was not adding the right amount of sand to that or like to that sealer. I mean, it should be really rough. And also what's good too is those tires tend to actually stay on top of those sand particles rather than staying on like the asphalt surface, which will wear off the sealer prematurely. And we actually add latex additive, and then for every 100 gallons of sealer, there's 20 gallons of water. Sealer is another thing. It's a huge trust factor. We know that, especially at HOAs, no one's testing our material. And so like, how do you know? I mean, so we actually sell to about 150 small driveway guys, and they come in and buy sealer from us. We don't tell them how to mix it. It's up to them. So they tell us how much water that they want in their tank, how much sand they want in like their tank too. So I know from experience looking out back, watching those guys, sometimes, I mean, it's sealer more than blacktop, and like asphalt paving, it's a huge trust factor. And I think that goes a long way. In the application, so we normally apply when we can with a bar, and I'll show you a picture of that really quick here too. And this is the coverage rate, kind of boring stuff, 0.24 gallons per square yard. We normally put 2 coats of asphalt, and driveways get one coat by a squeegee broom, and that's a typical specification. And when should you seal coat? Every 3 to 5 years. I think that's fair. I know, like the old, you know, my father used to seal his driveway every year, which, well, too much sealer is actually detrimental. And it's like the sealer itself will actually crack. So we want some of that sealer to actually wear off before you seal again. So you might say, boy, our parking lot really looks like it needs to be sealed again, but we want some of that sealer to actually wear off before we seal again. Any questions so far, anybody?
No, we had the question though that came in prior to this presentation, Jeff, about when an asphalt is done, how soon after that can seal coating be applied?
Oh, after the parking lot gets installed, thanks, Lorraine. I would say, most reserve studies probably say about 3 years. We like to wait about 5. But along with that 5-year, plan, I know, like the reserve studies follow that exactly. I think it's that's just a guide, not an exact science. So I like to look at those parking lots every spring and just see, hey, it might be 4 years and those stones are starting to actually ravel out some. Well, then I'm going to say, you know what, it's not 5 years, it'll be 4 years. But that's, 5 years is about like the right time, I think. And then, I think this is a big part. And seal coating is a preservative coating, not a structural repair. It's, you'll still see your cracks come up through. You're still going to see the old lines come up through. So sealer is just a coating and it's nothing more than that.
Jeff, we did get one more question that came in. Bill, if you want to talk after I read this to Jeff, you're welcome to. Bill asked about their HOA owns the streets. Do these guidelines apply to the streets as well as to the parking lots?
Well, I want to say, if there's streets, I don't like to seal coat streets. I think you don't see township sealing streets. I think this is actually like a pretty hot topic too. Is the sealer is going to wear off prematurely? I think it'll look great for a year, and I think it's going to wear off too fast. And I think that you're better off saving that money and investing it, putting it more towards the first mill and pave job that you do.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. And I always see like Wawas, Wawas, they used to seal coat quite a bit. And I always, and like, we would never do that. I'm actually friendly with the guy, but we would never do that, because after me, I always watch it, like the Wawa by us here. But they sealed it, and 6 months it was completely gone, because it's just a high rate of speed, so much traffic on it. And that's just kind of where I go from. And then I just think that you're better off putting it towards the milling and paving. So this is the bar I was talking about. So this is one of our sealing trucks. So this is how we like to put it down, like with a spray bar. So like the guys know inside, but they put their tachometer on a certain point, and they know exactly how fast to drive that truck. So like the right application rate is actually like applied. So we put down 2 coats. This is obviously a distribution center here, but that's 2 coats. Here's a truck putting down the second coat on top of the first coat. And you can see that these tracks here are actually, we have fog sprayers on our tires, so it doesn't track that newly put down sealer. And that's what these tracks are right here. Newly sealed lot. Here's some driveways, 1 coat squeegee again on all driveways. And then, so now, so like here's I think this is a homeowner association here. So you see the new lines, this red here, you'll see that's a chalk line. When our guys line stripe, like that's what they used to actually snap those lines out. Now we are using lasers finally, so you won't see any chalk now on your parking lots, and it's much more fast. It's actually great for us. We're finally getting some technology in our business. Newly sealed lot here. So this is the first one I'm going to get to here, is asphalt versus coal tar emulsion sealer. So we use coal tar forever. I'm a little worried about it, because as I said, I was a seal coating foreman for a long time, and we wore masks when we sprayed, but coal tar has high VOCs and poly, I don't even know all the terminology for it all, but it's being banned in like a few states now. It's still legal in Pennsylvania, and it all kind of stems back to an article in the USA Today. It was 2013, and so, and like we've had so many just trying to minimize this, we've had so many residents come up to us over the years and say, are you applying coal tar? So I think we're, a lot of contractors still do it. We made the decision not to apply coal tar on any residential property anymore. So we use an asphalt-based emulsion sealer. Now we've experimented with it for 10 years. We've tried all kinds of different products. In the last 3 years, we think that we finally found one, and we still give it a 2-year warranty on our on all like seal coating. But there was one article, and you can find it if you just search USA Today coal tar sealer, and this caused we thought back then that that we were going to be in some trouble. Like when this article first came out, we had all kinds of issues. So now. And so I actually follow this. So, and there was just an article written. There was this was this year in Virginia. This was February. They actually struck it down, which I'm shocked because coal tar. So what happens is if you think about sealer, so we put down I think 450,000 gallons of sealer last year. So we say that. Seal every 3 to 5 years. Where does all that sealer go? 450,000 gallons. Where's all that sealer going after it wears off? It turns into dust. It breaks down, goes in our waterways. And this USA like Today article actually says those dust particles were trapped inside people's homes, and that's a carcinogen. And it was, and then it really goes from there. I think that we're staying ahead of it by using coal tar, or actually, I'm sorry, using asphalt. And so this is the product that we're using. So you can search all these different things on here. USA Today, coal tar sealer, that was the big, like that one was it. So we're using our product made by Naira. They're a #1 like a supplier for sealer. They're in Ohio. It's more expensive. It's about 20% more expensive actually than coal tar. But we like to use this. It's an asphalt emulsion sealer. And actually we get the warranty from the manufacturer, which is huge. So, if you say it's wearing off in 2 years, well, we could go back to our supplier and that's a big thing. Just a little bit of a lag here. So as so I'm just talking about, so like the USA like Today article 2013, another big plus about asphalt sealer, which I like, and this is why, because it's low in odor. So when I drive around and I smell that coal tar smell, I always pull a U-turn because I know one of my competitors is probably putting it down somewhere, so I can smell it from 2 miles away and find it. But so people don't like that smell. I mean, so I don't either. But so that's a big part. With your residents, keeping the masses quiet and appeased. I think that's a huge part of using asphalt-based sealer. And it's still like derived from petroleum. I can't tell you how it's made or anything. I just know that it's much more safe, lower VOCs, lower PAHs. But as I said, we still warn it for 2 years. So it's been a 10-year long learning process for us. And I think that we finally found a really good, really decent product to use. And I think it's extremely beneficial. It is a little bit more expensive. Are we still using coal tar? We are on some distribution centers where we can, but here it is. So like New York and Maine, the full state bans in 2023. Most of Maryland, it is banned. It is not a statewide ban, but it is up to local municipalities. And most of the states ban. I know Washington, D.C. is banned in all of California right now. I think it's important to stay ahead of that curve. Does anybody have any questions regarding this? I'm going to move on from sealer then, if that's what everybody wants to do. Okay. kind of went backwards a little bit, but I wanted to hit on that. That one's, important. I think extremely important moving on in like the future here too. So, like this one is more along the lines of hitting your pocket and hitting your like your reserves here. So most of your reserve studies, when they say 18 to 22 years or maybe even 25 years, and most engineers will err on the side of caution, and I totally get it, and they probably should. And they say to mill out the full 4 inches of asphalt. So here's just a little thing about what is asphalt, like what is like your parking lot. There's a sub-base layer, and then there's, normally 6 inches of stone, which is modified stone, which is about 1/2 inch to 1 inch stones with silt and screenings in that stone. And then you have 2 courses of asphalt. And normally, typical specification for your parking lots are 2.5 inches of base course asphalt, which is that really large stone. It's actually stronger than wearing course, but it's not meant to see the elements. So normally, like you'll see you're on a new construction project, like you'll see like the base course will only be exposed for less than a year. And then they put that wearing course down, which is like your 1/4 inch stones on top of that. So what we like to do. So this is a huge part of the evaluating like your lot when it gets to that 15-year mark, is to look at your parking lot. And when you start to see failure on it, just, spider cracking, once you see that spider cracking happen, if like we time that right, that we can just mill off 2 inches of asphalt instead of the 4. So I think most of your reserve studies are going to probably err like the side of like a caution again, and like actually say 4 inches. But so by 2 inches, so if the in your reserve is going to say $500,000, to replace your parking lot, we can probably do it for about 260,000, almost half. And is it as good as replacing? Is it, is it as strong as replacing all 4 inches? We can argue that either way, actually. But I think it gets you 95% of the way there. And the benefit is, it's a brand, no one knows any different. It looks great. No one knows if you milled off and like to replace 4 inches of asphalt. So I think this is a huge one. So I love going in, and I'm always the bearer of good news on this one. I feel like too with boards. I feel like, hey, you don't have to spend that amount of money as long as you do it in the next 2 to 3 years, because if you let it go, that deterioration, once that wearing course completely breaks down, then that deterioration reflects back onto the base asphalt rather quickly too. And then once you have that fail, then you have to replace all 4 inches. And as we know right now, going back to my first point, oil is expensive, so we want to do whatever we can do to minimize the amount of material that we are putting back down. So here's like a lot. I just want to say, so here's one. We did this this was maybe a 4 or 5 year old job. We did a 2-inch mill and pave. So the reason being, yeah, all these alligator cracks, it's been sealed. This was probably a 24-year-old, as I remember, 24-year-old parking lot here. The alligator cracks, there is some. This up here is a little more rough. So I would say a 2-inch mill and pave on that whole parking lot there. And like this one, there was, maybe 15 of this size lot at this HOA here. But in this particular area, can you see me pointing that out, Lorraine? Can you see me with my cursor?
No, I can't see where you're pointing.
Yeah, I'm having a problem with my cursor. So if like you look on the left side, it's actually like the worst part of that. I might address that area right in that one spot and actually mill out 4 inches just in that particular location, and then put in base, and then do like a 2-inch mill everywhere else on that one. This is another one. This is a CAMCO managed property, actually in Chalfont. can't believe I even know that by looking at that. So we actually 2-inch milled this road. We've done these roads over the last 10 years here. And they've been holding up great. So this is like a 2-inch mill. So what you see here is I don't see any rutting. If I saw rutting there, then I would say, we have like a bigger issues and we might have to spend more money and do a full 4-inch mill. But we did a 2-inch mill and it's holding up. This is another one, 2-inch mill and pave here. This is in Willow Grove, but it's just surface cracking and it's not completely, failed all the way down to that base course. Now, when you start seeing this, you start seeing the alligator cracks in the middle there. It's hard to tell, but that is rutted right there in the middle. This is like this drive lane here where we did a 4-inch mill because of that rut. Like that rut, and that's telling me like that base is shot and we have to address that. So here's an interesting one here is, and we did a full 4-inch mill and pave here. You can see right in the middle, you can see that this parking lot was overlaid. So as earlier I said, wearing course is the small stone and base is like the much bigger stone. Well, underneath, you can see that this parking lot, there's 2 layers of wearing course asphalt. So this was overlaid at one time. And the reason why that overlay is failing because it was bad asphalt underneath. And so now you have to mill off that wearing course on top, then that other, like the original wearing course, and then cut into the base asphalt. And this is just, so this is, a picture of us, 2-inch mill and paving. This is a HOA. Actually, this is in Glen Mills. This is this job here. If you can see, it's milling and paving. So this was a full 2-inch mill pave. We did this job. We did this ring road. This was about a mile-long ring road that we did here 5 years ago, and 2-inch mill and pave. And so there are no cracks on that road. So going back to like the original point, 18 to 22 years, this one might even last longer. I don't see one crack on this newly paved road right here, which is, kind of justification for just doing a 2-inch mill pave job instead of 4-inch mill. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, Erica just had a question about your role in coordinating with the residents with when you do these big projects, whether it's the asphalt or the seal coating or anything.
My specific role?
Just Macadam's role as a company.
I guess as far as seal coating, we, so we'll send a sample letter out to the individual manager, and then the manager usually email blasts, I believe now, I think it's mostly email. And then we actually come up with a sketch and break up that property over a certain amount of days, however we think it's going to work for the amount of residents that live there. And then we'll, so if it's a 5-day seal coating job, we'll actually break it up over 5 days. And then we'll put up signs on barricades a day or 2 ahead of time on each section, just to remind residents, that, hey, May 17th, we are going to be doing this area. Please have your cars out 7 to 5, something like that. And actually going back to that, paving is easier than sealer as far as residents go. Sealing jobs, you have to stay off it overnight. So we have to close off those parking lots overnight. Paving jobs, most of the time, we can open them up at the end of the day. Since we do our own work, we will line stripe on top of our brand new paving at the end of the day. And our guys try to get out of there about 5 or 5:30, and we'll actually open up that parking lot. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, Erica, feel free to talk directly if you'd like.
No, that's great, Jeff. Thanks. Because it's important for us as managers. Sometimes, we can't convey the information enough to the residents. to make sure it happens perfectly. And sometimes you get a straggler vehicle that stays, when you're trying to pave the parking. And the fact that you guys put up cones and signs, that kind of thing is very helpful and good to know.
And it helps us out like crazy too, because when, residents have their cars there and our guys are waiting. And as you know, labor rates have gone up like crazy right now too. So we're doing whatever we can to minimize our costs. So yeah, so we try to help, managers out as much as possible to get vehicles like to move. But then, towing. So, like we usually like to have like the managers say something in those letters, hey, vehicles will be towed at the owner's expense. And so we normally get a tow truck on standby for that day. And sealing, sometimes you can, if it's not windy, we can seal around a car. We don't like doing it, just a chance of like damage. But paving, we cannot. I mean, as you can see from like the size of the train, I'll call it, we cannot mill and pave around vehicles, so we have to have them towed.
Jeff, we do have another question that came in from Ed asking about how you dispose of the material you mill and if it can be recycled.
So funny thing is that we just met with our suppliers. So we do a lot of work in New Jersey. So we're #1 supplier in New Jersey, Telecom, and they're sitting on, I forget the number, but it was in the millions of tons of millings. It's actually kind of sad. Everyone likes to see, everything being recycled today, and we want to see it as well. What happens is, so the oils in asphalt are really only meant to be heated one time. So when it gets, so when we order asphalt and we order it like the day before, and we go up to the asphalt plant and they make it as needed. So they have this huge burn, they add the oil, the stone, the screenings, and they make the asphalt for every batch. So that oil is burnt once, it's up to 450 degrees, I think, and we put it down. When you recycle that material, they tried to recycle more about 15 years ago. They really tried to, and use more in our asphalt. We ended up staying away from the asphalt plants that used too much recycled material because the material wasn't as good. And then it's a shame, but within our product at the end of it, you could see it raveling out. It would be dry, hard to explain. It just looks dry and it ravels out quick. And I can tell actually now that they are starting to use a little bit more recycled product because they are sitting on so much recycled, so many millings. We used to get a $5 a ton credit for like the dumping our millings, which was awesome. And now most of the time we have to pay to dump our millings because they aren't recycling as much. And actually, so we're paying about anywhere from $5 to $11 a ton to dispose of millings. And in New Jersey, above 195, that's like the magic line. Above 195, we're almost paying as much to dispose of millings as to buy new asphalt, which is crazy. And it's really becoming an issue today. And I think it's, Pennsylvania, we haven't seen the huge increases on that, but I think it's coming real soon. Like the DEP, everybody wants to know where those millings are coming from now. There has to be like a report in case there's something in them, some kind of substance. So it's really becoming a thing. So in New Jersey years ago, they would actually use a recycled glass. So they would actually recycle glass in the asphalt. So we just did a job in Bucks County that, I guess we did it last year. Well, so we looked, once the asphalt wears off the surface, you see the stones. Well, now we see glass and it's in people's driveways. So the recycled material had glass in it. It went into the new asphalt, and now we have glass in people's driveways. Is it bad? Not really, but it's glass and people are kind of freaked out by it. So that's on the recycle. Does that kind of answer your questions on the recycle?
I guess it does because he's not answering. So.
Okay. Let's see, there's another question in the chat. Is there another question there, or is that the one?
That was the one.
That was bad. Okay. Got it. Couple more pictures of milling and paving. Another 2-inch mill and pave job there. So this kind of gets us now to the last topic is, so here it is, the asphalt index. So like the material pricing today, it's becoming a real huge, it's a huge issue for us. It's kind of like in 2008, when oil skyrocketed, we really had issues. We had some homeowner associations backing out of bigger paving jobs. Like driveways is a lot of labor, but when you have a huge parking lot, the material is more than 50% of our price. So when you have a 25% material increase in 2 months, and people start thinking about it. But is this the end? Is this the new norm? We don't know that. Is it ever going to come back down? Is it going to be more? It actually may be more. Like with diesel fuel is $6.50 a gallon right now, and our dump trucks get 4 miles to the gallon. So when you have a large paving job and you have 6 dump trucks on that lot, it's important to be close to the asphalt plant. It's important to be close to our shop. There's all kinds of different factors, and it's a huge thing with us right now. It makes us nervous, and so again, going to that too, so important to catch your parking lot. If you can mill off 2 inches and not 4, that's it. That's the critical point here. I think that's, like the largest one, and just want to touch on that. So yeah, so you can actually go to this website. It's p8-asphalt.org, and you can see the asphalt. So we're in zone 1, and if you look at English units right here, and you just all the way, just stay in that first column. So, and traditionally too, like the asphalt index is always low in the months that we're not paving, which is crazy. So they always bump it up in the summertime during the peak. It's just the way to stick it to us a little bit. But if like you look at that, so it started off in March, it was 592, which is actually, if you look all the way down 21, it was pretty high then. Last summer was 532, 535. It was in the 400s in 2020. That actually helped us have a decent year during that peak COVID year. But right now, so March was 592. In April, it had a huge jump, 657, and then 713. So this number here is it's called the asphalt index. That is the cost per liquid ton of asphalt. So anybody can go on here and find this. And so as we said before, 5% of asphalt is the oil, and that's and that's what you're seeing, seeing that increase there. So, and I'll give it to you, so you can always replay it if you want, is for every dollar the index increases, the cost per ton on the ground is about 6 to 7 cents a ton on the ground. So right there, 657. So that was a $56 increase from April to May. 0.07. Let's go there. 0.07. Great. About $4 a ton increase on the ground. So if your homeowner association is calling for 1,000 tons, that's a $4,000 increase just in one month. And are we expecting more increases? Yes, we are. And so are we going to be talking to managers and to like the HOAs that we gave pricing to in March and April, and you want it done in August? Well, we did this before in 2008. We're going to have a conversation, and we'll try to eat some of the cost. And we'll try to do some things and just kind of come, because we still want to do the work. We need to do the work. So we try to come to a mutual agreement and kind of share the burden, per se, I guess, on that. And if you wanted to see the Jersey index, which is the same as the Pennsylvania index, anybody can go online and look at this. This is through the state. So just where the south, just here is north of 195. It's always about the same. Lost my screen. Lost my bookmark. There it is. So if we scroll all the way down, this first column here, 17, if we go all the way down, it was always about $300 to $500, you know, for forever. 500, 2013, and then we go to this is the last time the sky was falling for us, right? So here it is. In August of 2008, we had the huge fuel increases. Our index went to 822. That's the highest it's ever been. It's never been higher than that. And you can see in March, it was 362. So jobs that we were bidding in March, they went to 822. That was a 50% material increase. I mean, that's just, that was tougher than what it is now. We're hoping we don't see too many increases. And that's where we are now. So I know, does anyone have any questions about blacktop? I know I just want to touch on concrete. I know we don't have much time left. Does anyone have any questions on blacktop? Am I boring everybody?
Coming through the chat right now.
Pardon me?
Things coming through the chat right now. Wait, here comes one. Sorry, I spoke too soon. William has a question. How involved are you with engineering firms in the seal coating and paving process?
So we are friendly with a bunch of engineers. There's a few that I recommend. There's a few that don't want to use this because I tend to, you know, disagree because I feel like that sometimes I think it's good to butt heads and then come to a mutual agreement. I think that engineers most of the time, which I get where they're coming from, is they always err on the side of caution. And so I like to have the other side, you know, of going, you know, I know that you don't have deep pockets like a township does, and you can go to crazy specifications, you know, but we do work with quite a few engineers. And I know that we're recommended by a bunch as well, especially in the homeowner association world, because of that we try to, you know, just price, you know, just kind of keep prices down on things. And we get a lot of engineers calling us early in the spring, asking us where prices are, or, you know, and like they'll even call us up. A lot of engineers that you guys use are kind of a jack of all trade, and they might want to go to us just because this is all we do. And it's all I know. I've been doing it for 28 years, and they want to go to the field sometimes. But, you know, and most engineers don't get involved with seal coating all that much. Actually, we've only done a handful of jobs where an engineer has been involved with a seal coating job. It's just, again, going to that trust factor, and engineers are not testing that material. The only place that's ever tested our sealer is the Port Authority in New York and New Jersey, when we seal the 3 New York airports. So we seal their taxiways, and they take a sample of every single load of sealer. That's the only place that's ever tested it. But yeah, I mean, and we'll work with, you know, like there's, and I get too, with a board, having that, you know, middle person, you know, sometimes is important, just to kind of, you know, take some burden off of you guys. You know, because if like the rest of the residents say, you know, geez, why are you using Macadam? Or, you know, well then you have that engineer there watching us, which is fine. And they were involved with the bidding process. Do I think it's necessary? I don't, as long as you find a trustworthy contractor. Did I answer your question? I forget who asked that. I don't know.
There's a yes. Oh, here's another one. How do you reconcile 35 to 50-year average lifespan of curbs with average lifespan of asphalt roads and direction to replace the curbs in conjunction with the paving?
Good question, actually. So actually, I'm going to go through a couple of slides here, and it might even help. So let's just see. So here's curb replacement, and why are curbs so much, you know, so much money? Curbing, to do curbs properly, you can see how much work is involved with like replacing a curb. A concrete curb is actually, you don't only have 8 inches or 6 inches exposed above your asphalt. Below that is 10 inches. So our curb forms are 18 inches tall, as you can see. They're 18. I mean, that's so we have to saw cut in front of the curb and remove the asphalt, and we have to excavate behind the curbs as well. So we have soil restoration. It's a labor-intensive process. So I always, evaluate a parking lot, if it's up for milling and paving on that first time, if it's a 22-year-old parking lot and we're going to mill and pave, take care of the curbs that you have to take care of, because if you want to do the curb repair properly, you have to saw cut and remove some of the asphalt. So I always go through and look at it, and let's pick out those areas that we have to replace now, or we think that might even fail in the next 5 years because we don't want to saw cut into the asphalt. That's kind of how I go about it. Let's just see some more. So here's this is in Chow font. So these are depressed curves, as you can see here, and you can see the extent of the work. These are all forms here, and these depressed curves, these are parking, aisles on this side, and it's a road on the other side. So before we milled and paved, we were replacing these curbs here. This was a depressed curb, which specification has it 1 inch above the asphalt. That's why you see so much damage on plows, because it's just 1 inch above that roadway, and plows going across it just bang the hell out of those curbs, and it causes a ton of damage. So in an HOA, those get hurt first, and those are the ones that we are replacing first. But that's how I go about doing it, and just because curbing is so much money and it's so expensive. If we think that we can get it out to the next paving, in another 20 years, I really try to push for it. Here's some more, concrete curb picture just to see how intense it is, what it is. And here's a depressed curb that was actually installed. So our concrete curb crew put in the base asphalt first, and then we come back in, and it's actually lower than that wearing course. And then we'll come back in and, and then we'll mill off that roadway and then put that wearing course back in. So any other questions on concrete?
Yeah, there's another question that came in. What is overblessing?
Oh, I just want to get back to that. Where did I have that? Did I have that? I did, didn't I? Oh yeah, here it is. So these are just a few things I just wanted to do, like a touch on overall concrete. So this is this is such a hot spot right here, overblessing. So when the housing boom in the early 2000s created so much work for us. We don't do any new construction, so that like the housing boom. So GCs were hiring companies, and guys that didn't really know how to install concrete were doing concrete work. So what happens is there's a chemical reaction when concrete sets up. It's hot, and so guys will pour too much concrete all at once. So you have to, you have to screed that concrete in, install it, screed it, put it in, and then you have to have guys fall back and finish it. So what happens is if you install too much concrete at one time, you start losing it, and it starts getting hot, and you can't get a mag finish on it, like a broom finish. So guys, like I'm sure you've seen it, they have a paintbrush and there's a bucket of water, and they put that paintbrush in like the bucket of water, and they actually put a little bit of water on top of that concrete, which we do, but it creates a thin film. But if you put too much of that water on top, but sometimes you have to, if you're losing your concrete, that creates a thin film on top, and it looks great at first. So you don't know, and this is like another trust factor. So you don't know at first that, oh, wow, thanks for that job. And 2 years later, you'll see that whole, spalling, that whole top, just like a flake off. And then we get asked, hey, is our landscaping contractor or like our snow contractor, are they using salt? Most of the time they're not on those sidewalks. I feel like most of them know that to use calcium. It's good to double check, but salt can do that. But most of the time it's from the original installation of that concrete. And that's why you see that failure, and that's called spalling. Did that answer your question? I can't see the Zoom chat, but.
So Kathy has another question along that line. How can it be determined if the concrete throughout a new community is being damaged from snow removal applications, or if it's a bad mixture from the builder? So kind of goes with exactly what you were just saying.
Yeah, that's kind of, you call in, you can call an engineer. I know just right over the hill here, it's a large community, huge. It was built by Toll, but again, that was maybe 2002 it was built. In 2006, actually, like the board president was an attorney there, and he actually got $500,000 back from Toll, and you could tell right away that it was a bad pour. And going back to concrete too, is concrete like the material that we're buying? There's all kinds of concrete plants around. You kind of have to pick and choose your plants because we have to use a good product, and we put down not so good products. We don't know, but now we try to stay away from those concrete plants that we know it's not decent concrete. So I feel like when you look at your parking lots and you look at concrete that was installed 50 years ago, and it's just that concrete material was better than what we are purchasing now. Just there's all kinds of sorts of reasons. It's kind of like everything in life, like today, I feel like everything we purchase today isn't as good as it once was. But that is true with like concrete. And I feel like the installation and the know-how is super important right now. I think that's a big trust factor on concrete. And and concrete, different than asphalt, concrete, you can have a contractor that has 3 guys making it a dumpster delivered, and they can dump that concrete in after they jackhammer it out and throw it in a dumpster and leave it there. And then you can call in that concrete plant, get it delivered. Asphalt's different, where you have to have a company that has dump trucks, has a big paver. I mean, like when we show up in a job, we have $1.5 million to $2 million worth of equipment on the site. Concrete, you don't have to have that. And that's why pricing in concrete varies so much. It's all up, to like smaller, less overhead, smaller companies, guys, that just can start up and just start doing it.
So one more question. Can we jump back to the curbs and the asphalt? Someone just wanted a clarification on the curbs that you were mentioning about them being replaced at the, even if it looks like they're maybe going to last 5 more years or something like that. Can you just explain that one more time?
Sure. So when I evaluate a parking lot, if you're going to be, hey, Jeff, we're going to pave our parking lot like this year, and then I go out and look at everything, and I look at these drain tops. I'm not going to really touch on that, but these are called, it's real complicated. Like this one here along the curb is called a C top, C for curb. So when you hear C top, and then there's a M top, which is M for middle, which is I always but so I could go out and I look at all those drain tops, because along with the curbs, the drain, like that drain's actually in pretty decent shape. So we did not replace that one, but I'll look through the site and I'll look to see if we should replace those drain tops and how much curb has to be replaced. Most of the time, I mean, if it's, I'll see curbs along like a radius of a cul-de-sac. They tend to get hammered like the most because those plows come around and they really bang the hell out of that curb. And that tends to be cracked the worst. And normally we're replacing that. But a lot of times too, there'll be paving jobs that we will not have to replace any curbs. Like they're all in good shape, or like there might just be a little piece here and there. But like the average curb replacement on a 22-year-old parking lot is probably about the average, I'm going to say 100 to 300 feet. So if you want to use a unit number, $90 to $100 a foot. If like the lesser amount of feet you have, like the more, obviously like your unit number is going to increase. But that's, but now we're actually milling and paving a lot in Bucks County right now that we paved 25 years ago. It's an older community, and we're replacing a lot of curbs, and I don't know if they were expecting it either. So curbs so much. So I'm going to touch on something real quick. in another minute, a lot of reserve studies might, and I've seen a lot of reserve studies. So where your curbs, they might estimate, what's like, $18 a linear foot for the curb price. Well, that's brand new install. When you build this roadway, there's a large machine that actually comes in and forms and pours it, and they get 2,000 feet done in a day. So like those reserve companies, some of them you got to be careful. They might not realize, boy, you got to cut into the asphalt. You have asphalt restoration on both sides, or soil and seed on restoration. I mean, there's a lot more work than just pouring that straight shot of concrete curb. So I try not to go overboard on the curb. I really do. I just think that it's just so much money, and HOAs, I feel like, just aren't ready for that price. I'm like replacing the concrete curbs. That help?
Yeah, we have time for one more question or two more questions, depending on how long they are, if anybody has any others.
Could I ask if $18 is not a good estimate for a replacement curb, what would be a good ballpark number or a good range to think about today?
I would say about, for if you're doing a lot of curb, you get that, about $85 a linear foot if like you're doing a lot of curb. But so if you were a 60-year-old community that you're gonna be replacing, almost all of it long runs, well, then going back to the no subcontractor, we would get a subcontractor, but we just don't do it enough. We would have someone come in with the machine, we would get it all prepped, and we would have someone install all that concrete curb with the machine. And then your unit number, now you're talking getting way down on a unit number, maybe even $50 possibly if you're putting in that much concrete curb. But a good safe, when you guys are looking at about $90 a linear foot. Actually, and we just got another price increase from all those concrete plants. They just raised, I think it was a 10% increase on concrete. The one thing though, like with concrete versus asphalt, concrete's a lot less of our number because it's so labor intensive that the material price is not that important as opposed to asphalt.
Okay, we can do one more question. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Jeff, for presenting the asphalt and concrete to all of us. Greatly appreciated. And thank you all for joining us tonight. We will have recording links available for anybody who wants to view this again, or for board members who were not able to attend. The next CAMCO board events on May 12th at 12 p.m. will be a board portal training. And on May 23rd, there will be another board roundtable. This will be just for New Jersey, for insurance specific to New Jersey. That's also at 6 p.m. And on June 7th, another board roundtable will be reserve studies, also at 6 p.m. So again, thank you all for attending tonight. I really appreciate it. Take care.
And thank you very much.
Good job,
Thank you,
Jeff.
guys. Thank you. I recognize a few names. Thank you.
Thanks.